What's going on, everybody? It is that time again, the Sooners Illustrated podcast, episode 201.
201.
On this Monday, August 18th, 2025, Josh Callaway, James D. Jackson, Tom Green, 12 days until kickoff. 12. That's it. It's crazy. We're less than 2 weeks from the opener. Fall camp has essentially ended. It's all kind of semantics. They're in kind of the preseason now, game prep stage of this kind of part of the offseason. We're very, very close. It's about that time. Obviously, we do the countdown. When we get into the 90s, under 100 is when I started doing the countdown. 12 feels real. This is probably the lowest, obviously it's the lowest number we said, but it's like that kind of gets the juices flowing a little bit. We are getting very, very close. On the program today, we're wrapping up our position preview series with the secondary, cornerbacks, and safeties. A lot of young talent at both these positions. Some things unknown. We'll get into it at both spots. And fall camp, like I said, kind of basically in the books. What did we learn? What do we still not really know as the season gets ready to approach? We will discuss that as well on this Monday program, the final non-game week of 2025. Feels pretty good. We're fired up. We're getting very, very close to getting this thing rolling. A reminder to subscribe to us at Sooners Illustrated for the season. Use the promo code SoonersPod60 for 60% off a VIP annual membership right now. Not just Sooners Illustrated, but the entire 24/7 Sports Network. Obviously, fall camp winding down, but high school season about to start. The season's coming up. Obviously, be a part of our community. It's about that time. The season about to kick off next weekend. We're all very, very fired up. And so a great time to jump in. Use that promo code if you're listening on pod. SoonersPod60, all one word, 60% off a year subscription right now to Sooners Illustrated. And again, the entire 24/7 Sports Network. Fellas, here we go. It's the final week. Programming note, we do have one more, again, I don't know if you want to call it fall camp or not. It's all semantics, but one more kind of pre-game week availability tomorrow. We're going to get 3 assistant coaches expected to talk. Emmett Jones, Jay Valai, and Todd Bates, along with some more players tomorrow afternoon down in Norman after practice. But we're at that point here, guys. I mean, the season starts next week. It's kind of crazy. This time next week, we'll be making our final season predictions and getting ready for the opener. It's about that time. We got one more week. Get your mind right. Enjoy one last week of freedom. And then we get into the grind of it. But I think we're all really fired up to get this thing going.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, fired up to get it going.
Yeah.
It's weird. The off season just like always seems so long, and then like fall camp starts and it's like you're speed running everything, and it's like we're already right there. But yeah, crazy thing, they've already had 14 practices in the books. Today, I think is practice 15. Or no, they're off today.
Yeah.
They'll be back at it tomorrow for practice number 15, and we'll, like you said, hear from a few assistant coaches that we haven't heard from in a while. I know Todd Bates spoke at the coaches luncheon before the start of the preseason, but I mean, we haven't heard from Emmett Jones or Jay Valai in over 2 years. So really interested in hearing what they're going to have to say about their position groups. Emmett Jones certainly with all the new faces in there, and then Jay Valai with just that youth movement at corner that I'm sure we're about to get into.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, I'm going to say this. Oklahoma has done a really good job of giving us access this season. I mean, it's been phenomenal.
Right.
For the amount of time we get to see at practice, for the amount of things we get to see, and it lets us report back to the fans and things like that a lot better than we were able to do, I think, in years past. It's been a great time. And as you said, we're getting to talk to more assistant coaches, like hearing what they have to say about their individual groups. It helps out a lot. I mean, when Miguel Chavis was talking about his group, it's like you learn so many different things from that than when it's just Brent Venables talking about everything. So it's been great, man. I'm excited for the season just because of that. You kind of learn a little more about the insides and outs of everything, and we get to report it back and do our jobs. It's great.
No, totally agree. Position coaches, obviously the viewing windows, and then again, we've talked to like every guy on the roster, basically everyone who has like a chance of having a role in this team, pretty much. A couple of guys still kind of hanging out there that we may talk to tomorrow, right? I mean, it's been awesome this month, and it's a good thing. It's a smart thing. I think it's helped get the fans excited. OU fans are always. We joked about it a few times, a pessimistic offseason after what happened last year. I think OU fans have been more of a show me mode than maybe any other offseason of my life. But this fall camp, I think the reports out of it, and a huge part of it has been the access, I think, has let fans kind of get excited again. And everyone's fired up to get this thing rolling next week. It's crazy they play a game in 12 days. And in 19 days is one of the biggest games of the Brent Venables era, if not the biggest. I mean, you can make that argument whenever Michigan comes to town in less than 3 weeks now. So it's exciting. We're going to get a lot of answers very, very soon, but we're getting close. It's exciting. Again, hop in as soon as illustrated. Going to be a fun season. Today, we're going to wrap up our position preview series. Like I said, with the secondary, we've done 8 positions so far. They're all obviously on the YouTube and the podcast feed. The individual videos are on the website as well over at oklahoma.247sports.com. 2 more to go. We're going to do them today. Let's start with cornerbacks. Tom kind of mentioned it early, just a minute ago. We're talking to Jay Valai tomorrow, and it's going to be very interesting to hear him talk about this group because it is, I think, one of the bigger unknowns on the roster still. A ton of young talent here that they're probably going to have to lean on. Eli Bowen has been out, has not participated in fall camp at all. It's not really clear where he is or what is a realistic timeline for him after his great freshman season. Gentry Williams has had a great camp, so far healthy. Hopefully he can stay that way. I think everyone's pulling for him, but obviously he's had his injury history in the past. Jacoby Johnson is back, and then it's a bunch of young dudes. Devon Jordan, obviously Tristan Haynes, the 5-star. Jeremiah Newcomb's had a good camp. We talked a lot about Cortland Guillory. The names kind of go on and on there. We talked about it back in the spring, guys. They could have added in the portal. They didn't. They went with their young guys here, and we're going to find out soon if it's going to pay off or not. It still feels like it's a question mark just because we just don't know, but it seems like it's been a pretty good camp for a lot of these guys. I think they feel confident in some of the young talent they have, but until we see it, we won't know for sure. But I think optimism is maybe a little higher here than it would have been a month ago. Is that a fair assessment for you guys? Because I think some of these young guys have kind of stepped up so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still probably the biggest question mark on the defense. Just because you have, so much youth. You look at what you replaced last season. Woody Washington's gone, Des Malone is gone, Kenai Walker's over at Arkansas now. So you're replacing 3 of your top 4 rotational guys there at corner. Obviously, and Eli Bowen. I mean, we're not sure when he's going to be back yet. If he gets back healthy, that kind of changes the equation of what the outlook is here. But, coming out of the spring, we all talked about it. We all kind of thought that they would try to go get a veteran cornerback to add to that room. And instead, they kind of just doubled down on their belief in these young players. And so far, through camp at least, and against this offense, it seems like it is paying off. We've heard great things about Davon Jordan. Cortland Guillory's name has popped up time and time again. Jeremiah Newcomb's been really impressive, while also, splitting some time over at Cheetah. And then, Gentry Williams having a fully healthy camp as he kind of knocks off some of that rust, I think is huge. If he can stay healthy, that's obviously a big boon for this defense. Jacoby Johnson really settling in after moonlighting as a wide receiver for part of last season. So they have really good, talented pieces there. It's just that, there's not a lot of, proven college experience beyond Gentry Williams really right now, especially with Eli Bowen out. So I think they're optimistic about it, like you said, but still certainly some questions going into the season about how some of these guys are going to match up against SEC receivers.
Yeah, and I think that's going to affect our scores just based on the health of this room overall. Who's going to be there? Who's going to be available? Because you just don't know at this point in time. Like you said, with Eli Bowen being out, Gentry Williams coming back with that injured shoulder. It kind of gets nicked up a couple of times throughout a season, and you got to kind of have to expect it at this point. Somebody has to be ready to go just in case. And so that's pretty much the situation for them. But what I have liked about it is, like you guys were saying, those young guys, they're very confident in themselves. We talked about it when we saw Cortland Guillory, his interview that we did, and his confidence in himself. And you cannot be out there if you're going to be, wishy-washy and not comfortable with what you're doing. That helps out a lot when you have it already. And he was like, I can guard anybody man on man. I don't have any, I don't fear anything like that. It's learning the cues and techniques for playing zone defense and those type of things, which is, now that he's had a year of it, going through spring camp and going through most of fall camp so far, it'll help out a lot, I think, in that aspect. So if those young guys have to step up, maybe in games 2 or 3 that they come out there, they can do it because they've learned so much over this time. And Oklahoma, as you said, didn't go after an experienced corner. So it's like they've been the guys that they've been pointing to this entire time, that they have to be mentally ready to go out there and be ready to play. And I think they had the confidence and the skill sets. It's going to be just about doing it, I think, at that point.
Yeah, Eli Bowen is the obvious matzo ball kind of hanging over this position right now. If he's healthy, you're in great shape. But we just don't know. I mean, he was not around in the spring very much. He was banged up then, and we get to the start of fall, and Brent Venables says he's going to miss the start of fall camp, and here we are less than 2 weeks from the opener, and he's in a boot. Unlike some of these other guys who have been out, who are still kind of like doing something off to the side running, Eli Bowen has done nothing, at least in what we've gotten to see. And by all accounts, he hasn't really just been active. And so it's just, what's the timetable for Eli? I just don't know. He's really the one significant injury that I think is still kind of hanging. Because even, Giovanni Gibson, I feel like there's a lot of optimism there that while he probably is certainly not going to play in the opener, maybe not even Michigan, like SEC play, I think there's a lot of belief he's going to be back by then. Around that time, Eli, I just don't know, and so that heavily influences how you feel with this position. Tom made the great point and the great question back in media day. Could Kendall Dolby play some corner? Brent Venables said, yeah, but he's another one. I don't know. Kendall Dolby, that, rough leg injury last year, and then he has the wrist thing, and it's like, where is he at in kind of being a full go? I don't think that's really a known thing right now either. So there's a lot of talent here. There's a lot to be excited about, but it's a lot of unknown. It is. It's actually the biggest question mark on the defense, like Tom said earlier. If you guys had to pick one, I think we all think that, let's say Eli Bowen is out. And I'm not reporting this by any means. Let's say Eli Bowen's out for the first few games. Michigan game, he's not there. Gentry Williams is going to be starting, obviously. Who's the other side? Is it Jacoby Johnson? Is it one of these young guys? If you had to pick one right now, where would you go?
Davon Jordan.
Oh, okay. I got Jacoby. I got Jacoby Johnson still. I think he's more experienced in that situation. Like we saw him out there a lot against. I think it was a Missouri game where he got a lot of shine there and played. So just looking at that, I think it's what it's because Eli Bowen wasn't he was in there because of Gentry Williams' injury last year, wasn't it? What happened was sparked his availability to really shine.
I think it took a few more games than that. So I think it was the Auburn game might have been his first start. So it was really I can't remember who he stepped in for, but because they were rotating Woody and Kenai and Bez. I can't recall exactly, but it took a handful of games before he really got inserted in the starting lineup. Even though I think Gentry's early season injury certainly opened the door for him to get some early reps in those first few weeks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like I said, I got Jacoby just because I think the experience is there. I know Coach Brent Venables talked to, good amount about, Devin Jordan or Day Jordan and just what he's done. So, I mean, it could go either way, but I think the experience will play a factor in who gets out there first and just in terms of comfortability.
I just think Davon Jordan's had such a good fall camp by all accounts, everything we've heard. And I'm curious to see what Jay Valai has to say when we speak to him tomorrow and kind of what he views that pecking order to look like. Look, they're going to rotate corners. Like nobody's going to be out there playing 60 snaps a game, probably. It's just a matter of, especially early in the season against a team like Illinois State, getting some of those young guys reps. So I think we're going to see a lot of them play in that opener. But yeah, if I were to, put out a depth chart projection today, I think I would have Davon Jordan in that number 2 corner spot opposite Gentry.
Yeah, and you could talk me into it. Have 2 Tulsa guys there with Gentry and Jordan. But yeah, we know Brent Venables is a huge fan of Cortland Guillory. Jeremiah Newcomb looks great. He probably is going to play some Cheetah, it sounds like. So, I mean, there's a lot to be sifted through. The young talent is great, but it's just, when you're almost going to be completely reliant on it, it's a little scary. It's just because it's just unproven. Let's go ahead and go to the scores.
I was going to say, especially because, you look at last year's defense for as improved as it was in year 3 for Brent Venables, like the one kind of weak spot on the defense was the passing defense.
Yeah.
Like they weren't terrible. They were just kind of middle of the pack. There was an area they definitely needed to improve upon. And, you hope that, getting Gentry Williams, a bigger physical corner like him, who's shown he can be a really effective corner when healthy, getting him back helps with that. Having Eli Bowen whenever he comes back, building off of his freshman season and just, some of these rangier, faster corners that they have that they didn't necessarily have last year when they had, Woody Washington and Des Malone and Kenai Walker. So I think, again, it wasn't a bad area of the team. It's just an area that they need to improve upon. And it feels like the personnel is better. It's just they don't have the experience that last year's unit had.
Jans, I'll let you kick it off. 1 to 10. How are you feeling?
I think I'm at a 7.8 because it's like I don't know what's going to happen just yet with these guys. Want to see who's all healthy and really going into SEC play, who's the cornerbacks. I think that's when it's going to be decided. These are the guys we're going with pretty much for the season. So I think I'm at a 7.8, which is kind of like a wait and see type of number, just because it could go either way with what's out there. I mean, there's a lack of experience in the room with the younger guys, but they're also very talented, I think, and from what we've seen. I mean, you talked about it with Jeremiah Newcomb. The rep we saw against him with Jamarca Carter earlier in camp was phenomenal. It was great. It was like textbook, shaving his way out there and get his head turned around and getting his arm up and deflecting the pass. Those are the type of the moves that you want from those young guys. That shows they can be out there in those one-on-one situations in the back of the end zone type of plays. So I mean, there's things like that you're seeing, but also it's a lack of experience as well with those younger guys. So just seeing who's going to be out there is going to change the way the number is, I think, overall.
Yeah, I'm in that same ballpark, a little lower for me, 7.25, 7.25. You know, it just there's a ton of young talent here and a ton of potential, but the fact that we just don't know with Eli and, you know, what's the timetable for him. I mean, it's not season ending. I don't believe, right? But I mean, it's how long is it going to take to actually get him out there? Can he be back by at least SEC play? Is going to be really important. And then, you know, I'm always try to choose my words carefully because I don't mean it as a knock on the player, because I think Gentry Williams is an NFL cornerback, if he can stay healthy, in my opinion. And he's really talented, but he has not been able to stay on the field. And so until he's out there for an extended period without that shoulder kind of betraying him, it's hard to bank on him. And so if Eli's out and Gentry's out, where does that leave you? And it's a lot of young talent. And like Kendall Dolby could probably step in and do a nice job. But, you know, I don't necessarily think the position is a problem, but it could be if a few things kind of, you know, spill the wrong way, I guess. So 7.25 for me. It could be higher. If you told me Eli Bowen and Gentry Williams play double-digit games this year, I would go probably an 8 or above. But it's just hard to bank on that right now. So 7.25 for me.
Yeah, you're both a little bit higher than I am with this grade, but I'm kind of in the same boat as Josh there, just like where if you could guarantee me that Eli Bowen isn't going to be a long-term lingering thing and that Gentry Williams, like that shoulder doesn't pop out for a third time, I'd be a lot higher. But I'm going to go with a 7 going into this season. Again, just because, you know, the unproven talent there, right? Like you said, there's a lot of talent in that room. And, you know, by all accounts, these guys have really impressed the coaching staff. Not just for what they did in the spring, but kind of reaffirmed the belief that this staff has kind of imbued in them by not going out to get a transfer player in the spring. Like they're making that, you know, pay off. We've seen with a guy like Cortland Guillory stepping up with the steps that, you know, Jeremiah Newcomb and Davon Jordan are taking in year 2 in this system. So I think that the secondary is going to be improved from where it was last year. I just still have questions going into the season, especially since Eli Bowen has not been out there this fall.
We'll stick in the secondary. Let's go to safeties. So this is an interesting group because, again, kind of like corners, there's a lot of really young talent here that's exciting, but you do have some veterans. Obviously, the headliner being Robert Spears-Jennings, who, you know, depending on who you ask, is in the, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 best players on the team. I mean, it's kind of him, Kip Lewis, and R. Mason Thomas are kind of that triumvirate, you know, on the defense. Obviously, he's kind of been tasked with being like, okay, go be Billy Bowman now, obviously, who was so good for Oklahoma for, you know, a number of years. He's off the NFL now. Can RSJ step into those shoes? Seems like he can. That's going to be a big question, though. Peyton Bowen, year 3 for him, obviously the former 5-star, has shown flashes of being a really good player, but has been hurt a lot. Now, he's mainly played through it.
He's played through it.
Has, you know, limited him over the last couple of years. And again, he's had some very nice moments, but maybe not quite to that superstar level that was thought of coming in. But, you know, again, it's like, can he be 100%? That's a big question. And then, obviously, we talked about it a lot. Reggie Powers has had a great month. Michael Boganowski's had a great month. They're still very fired up about Jaden Hardy. Omarion Robinson, the freshman, has done some nice things as well. So there's a lot of young talent in this group too. Safeties, guys, has been a really strong position for Oklahoma. Brandon Hall has done a great job. They've recruited it well. They've developed it well. You don't have Billy Bowman anymore, which is scary because kind of like Danny Stutzman at linebacker, he was just such a safety blanket. You just always feel confident when that guy's out there. He's gone. but the talent still feels like it's really, really strong here with obviously Robert Spears-Jennings at the top, a guy who I think certainly has a chance to be an all-SEC NFL draft pick type of player if it all comes together.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to spoil my grade right off the bat, but I think this might be the second best position group on the defense. I'm really high on this unit. Like you said, with Robert Spears-Jennings coming back and just what he was able to do last season in that role, I think was he second on the team in tackles behind Danny? I think
third. He was third, I think, overall.
Okay, but between that and he forced 4 fumbles, which was like among the best in the nation for an individual player. Just really solid back there, and certainly stepping into more of a leadership role going into this final season for him. And then
second tackles.
Yeah, second in tackles. And then Kip was
more than Kip Lewis. Yeah.
So having RSJ back there, having a healthy Peyton Bowen, who, like you said, he's had flashes here and there of what he's capable of last season. Playing through the turf toe thing, certainly didn't help him. But he, was limited in the spring. Didn't really do much, and that gave him time to recover. And I think that we're going to see more of like what that 5-star potential of Peyton Bowen looks like. But I'm just really intrigued by Reggie Powers. He's a guy whose stock has been on the rise since the start of the spring. He's going to play a lot, and that is probably going to be their main triumvirate of safeties right there, kind of like how last year it was RSJ, Peyton, and Billy. I think Reggie Powers is going to be that third guy. But then you also have intriguing pieces like Michael Boganowski. Omarion Robinson is a guy whose name we've heard a lot as a true freshman. So I think this unit could be really intriguing. And like you said, Brandon Hall's done a great job, not just recruiting talent to that room, but developing the production too. So I'm really high on this group going into the season.
Yeah, I think for RSJ, it's about just being consistent with what you did last year is what you could do this year and be just fine in the position group. And I think Peyton, as you said, he took the whole spring off to kind of just nurse that injury and get back fully healthy, which he says he's ready to go now. And so you're going to see more of those 5-star type of players that he was projected to be, which you kind of see in the first season in little, small opportunities that he was given. But now he can do it at a higher rate, move the way he wants to move. I think it's going to help out a lot with this safeties room that has high expectations, I think, from us and I think the fans as well, just from what we've seen overall. And as you said it, Reggie Powers he's just been phenomenal throughout camp, and his name has been growing. He's been doing a lot of different things, learning 2 different positions, and still people believe that he's going to be one of the safeties out there. So it just shows what he's done. I mean, overall. So I like the safety room a lot. Michael Boganowski, who may be the hardest hitter on the team, is what some of those guys have been saying. I mean, it's that type of situation for them all. He was coming from a linebacker to a safety, so just learning the little ins and outs of that position. He says he's comfortable with it now after going through it for a year. So it's a great room overall. I think it's going to be a high score, like Tom said.
Yeah, Robert Spears-Jennings, like Tom said, second on the team in tackles last year, 2.5 sacks as well. A guy that I know NFL teams are very intrigued by. I mean, he looks great. I mean, he looks the part, and he's clearly grown as a leader. I mean, Brent Venables obviously chose to bring him to SEC Media Days, back last month. I mean, he's become one of the faces. I mean, it's kind of like I said, him, Kip Lewis, and Mason Thomas are kind of the 3 guys that we've kind of tasked with being like, okay, go replace Down, Stutzman, and Bowman. And they all feel like they're ready to do it, both on the field and off of it. So, he's leading the charge, and he's got a chance to have a fantastic season. I'm curious, you guys both mentioned it, the Reggie Powers thing. Would you be shocked if Reggie Powers was on the depth chart ahead of Peyton Bowen whenever the depth chart drops next week? I don't think I would be. And that's not even necessarily a knock on Peyton as much as Reggie's having a great month, and we know Brent Venables loves him, obviously.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see Reggie Powers on a top line, or at least an or separating him and Peyton Bowen going into that opener. But yeah, I mean, like I said, his stock has been on the rise since the spring. He got his feet wet last year, playing a little bit more cheetah, I think it was last year, but it seems to be settling into that safety role opposite RSJ and in that rotation there. I think he's going to be a real good playmaker for them this season.
Yeah, I think it's a belief it could go either way with those guys. It should be an or, I think, on the depth chart, as Tom said. It's just
they'll both
Reggie
play.
Powers they'll both play. It's just Reggie Powers has done a really good job this past month, and so you go with the guy that's hot, basically, into the first game and things like that. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. We'll see, but it can go either way.
Yeah, and then Jaden Hardy is an intriguing one too because he had a role last year. Jaden did as a true freshman, had an interception in the opener last year. As he kind of faded back, or is he still? He's an interesting one because Reggie Powers was such a trendy name, and we know Michael Boganowski is one that gets people fired up, and so Hardy's an interesting one because he I thought seemed to be kind of be the leader of that young group last year, at least kind of the forefront of it. Has he just faded back, or is it just those other guys have had great months? That'll kind of bear itself out over time. But this position's in great shape. Brandon Hall, we talked about it before, super underrated for whatever reason. He recruits well, he develops guys, he retains his guys, and this position has just never been a problem. And again, he's had Billy Bowman, but the depth has always been good behind Billy, and now you're bearing that out in the fact that you could lose a guy like that, who's a mid-round NFL draft pick, a guy who has a chance to start as a rookie for my team, the Atlanta Falcons, and you're really not really missing a beat in terms of what you kind of feel about this position group. So it's in a great spot. Let's go ahead and score it. I guess I'm starting with safeties here. I should have double-checked to go back and see what I put for defensive ends because I feel about the same as with defensive ends. I'm going to call it a 9.25 without remembering what I gave defensive ends. It's not like the tackle where it's like clearly you have 4 guys that you feel great about, but it's close. I mean, it's close because I think, again, Robert Spears-Jennings, you can make the argument. I mean, I think Armisa Thomas is clearly the best guy in this defense, but RSJ is right there with Kip Lewis for number 2 for me. And I still think there's a lot of potential for Peyton Bowen. Reggie Powers has been great. I love these young guys. Amarian Robinson's a guy that I know is really exciting as well. So, and I just have a lot of faith in Brandon Hall, frankly. So, safeties is in great shape. RSJ leading the charge there. 9.25 for me, one of the highest on the team. It's in great shape. It has been for the last several years with Hall, and I think it continues to be despite losing a guy like Billy Bowman, which is obviously quite a statement and very impressive.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and check what I put for defensive ends.
I know.
But I think this is going to be like an 8.75, maybe it's slightly higher. Again, like I said, I think this is the second best unit on the defense behind those defensive tackles. So there shouldn't be too much of a drop off in those grades. I just wish I had written all these down and had them in front of me as we were doing this over the last month. But yeah, really high on this group. I think they're going to be really good. Brandon Hall's done a great job. And he's one of 4 guys on this defensive staff with defensive coordinator experience. So there's just no shortage of knowledge and wealth that he's passing down to those guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm right in the middle of you guys. I think I'm at a 9. So I mean, it's a good room overall. I mean, just that's you feel really comfortable with the guys that they can throw in there and produce and have the confidence that they can produce in their given opportunities. So I'm at a 9. I like this room overall. As you said, Brendan Hall's done a really good job. As we talked about it, he was an underrated pretty much like recruiter because he was just like bringing in 4-star after 4-star after 4-star.
Yeah,
it's been good. So I think that's where it is. And I think it's starting to show with our comfortability with the room as well.
And he finally got that raise in the spring to kind of have him more of a market value for what he's done. So
no doubt. So that concludes our position preview series. Do you want to real quick? We don't do special teams really. I don't know if we have the ability to really break down kickers and stuff like that. But do you want a real quick score for the kicker, punter, special teams game? Real quick.
Oh man,
score. I mean, I think they'll be better. I think they'll be in a better position from a kicking standpoint than last year. Punter probably comparable, just because you look at what Luke Elzinga did and you look at Jacob Ulrich's numbers, like they're very, very similar. I think even though I think Jacob Ulrich averaged a little bit more per punt, but Luke Elzinga had like a better net punt average. He had better hang time. I think he had a few more pin inside the 20, but I think it's going to be very steady performance there from Doug Deacon's group here in year 2, especially, after the spring, going out and getting Tate Sandell, who was just aces for UTSA last year. By all accounts, he's been great in the preseason here. Had a 58-yarder in the scrimmage, and I thought it was funny. When we spoke to Brent Venables last week, he was like, "Yeah, had a 58-yarder, had a 55-yarder. You didn't hear me talk about those in prior years because we didn't have those in prior years."
Right.
Yeah.
And you look at his first 3 years, I think they only had they were 3 of 6 on kicks from 50+ yards. They had 2 of them last year, 1 each from Zach Schmidt and Tyler Keltner. And then Schmidt was like 1 of 2 the year before. But his first year, I mean, the longest they had was like 44, 45 yards. So to have that added weapon, I think, and a little bit more reliability in the kicking game will be huge.
Yeah, I don't know if I can give a number to it just yet. I know that they're going to be better than they've been because I think I like what Brent Venables said when we spoke to him last. Just like Tom just said, he was like, we made a 58-yarder, 55-yarder, and I haven't been talking about that like in years past. Like that's a really good sign. And even when we were out there, we got to see Tate Sendell kick some, and he was knocking them through the uprights over and over again. So it's like you're seeing it anyway in camp. So we'll just see if it translates to the field this time around because I think it hasn't in years past. But let's see what happens there.
Yeah, by all accounts, Tate Sendell's been great. So I feel pretty good with the kicking game. I mean, Luke Elzinga was good last year, so I'm not going to pretend to really know if how the punting situation is going to be relative to a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very intrigued by the return game too because I feel like they have a lot of options for guys to return punts and kicks. Does Peyton Bowen get another go at it?
He said he was.
He step in and get a go at it. I know it's a guy we've seen do it. In the practice we've had. I know Jay Knott's intriguing, but it's also like you want him taking the extra hits, returning kicks and stuff. So I feel like there's a lot of options in the return game, punts and kicks. But curious to see who actually ends up winning those jobs, at least to start the year. But yeah, I mean, special teams feels like it's in a pretty good place overall, but we'll find out soon enough, obviously. But I do feel good about the kicking game with Tate Sendell. I think he's been great so far, and we'll see how that bears out in actual game atmospheres. But I think there's a lot to be kind of encouraged by special teams wise for Doug Deacon. Okay, so fall camp wrapping up. Again, it's kind of semantics on where the kind of the line is on fall camp. I think it's like technically over. They had their situational scrimmage on Saturday, which is when like alumni come back, and I think it was even less than a scrimmage, as much as kind of like just really a practice on Saturday, kind of a light practice. They're off today. We get back to it tomorrow. That's when we're going to talk to some guys after practice tomorrow. And that's when you're kind of really starting to shift into seasoning game prep. That's where they feel like you're at like the line of fall camp right now. So just put it kind of simply, what did we learn? What did we learn over fall camp? And maybe an even better question, what do we still not know? Well, what's kind of still hanging out there for this team 12 days until they play a football game? For you guys, what jumps out as far as the top thing that you learned, or maybe something you feel better about, or something, again, maybe a better question is what you didn't really get from the last few weeks, where we kind of sit right now, 12 days until the opener.
I think the biggest takeaway from this fall camp is that they feel pretty confident that this offense is going to be solid.
Mm-hmm.
When we spoke to Brent Venables, he was talking about, this has been a more evenly competitive fall camp between the offense and defense, certainly more than it was last year. Sure. Last year, all we heard was, man, the defense is just out there whipping them. Like, you didn't know, is the defense this good or is the offense this bad? And it was kind of a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Whereas this year, I mean, like the defense won that first scrimmage. The offense kind of got the best of them in the second scrimmage. So there's been more give and take, more back and forth. As Brent Venables said, the offense has been punching back, which is good to see. And, he compared it a little bit more to like the 2023 season, when they had a really good offense. But I think the difference there is that you look at 2023, that was still year 2 of Brent's defense. So they were still kind of on the rise where the offense was ahead of things. This year, we know what they have defensively. Like, they should have one of the better defenses in the country this year. And for the offense to be getting some of their lick back in that, I think it says a lot more about where this offense is heading into this season. I think it's reason to be optimistic. Now, I don't know how good they're going to be, but I feel very confident in saying they will be a lot better than they were last year.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that I'm kind of still questioning is who's going to be like what's the running back rotation, pretty much. Like we've seen the past couple of practices, there's only been 2 guys really healthy. And we didn't get to see a lot of Isaiah Robinson at all, pretty much throughout these camps that we've been viewing. So who's going to be the guys to step up? Like, we've heard good things about Torrey Blaylock, who's a freshman. Like, is he going to get a role this season based on what he's done so far? I mean, you would think it's Javonte Barnes, and then, the other guys can kind of fill in there. But, like, what's going to happen? Taylor's been nursing an injury as well. So, like, what's going to happen with that room overall? Because you expected it to be one of the stronger units on that offense, along with John Mateer coming on and bringing some hype to that group. what's going to happen there? I mean, and in the offensive line, I mean, we kind of have like our guesses of who's going to be starting all the way through, but we don't know for sure just yet. So that's going to be an interesting thing to really see, you know, who they go with and things like that. So just that's kind of the questions that I still have left, you know, overall from camp. But
Sure.
like Tom said, the offense is, I think the offense is going to be a lot better. I think it's more comparable this season. The coaches have been saying, the players have been saying it. So it's a good sign overall. I think you saw it a lot in doing your scrimmage write-ups, like hearing things like that and seeing that, okay, yeah, it's going both ways now. And we're seeing it from the clips too, even on social media. Like some of those defensive players are in position on those catches that those offensive players are making that you're, you know, seeing from the OU social media. So like it's showing good signs that they're pretty much even maybe this time around. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. When I look at it, you know, positionally, like where do I feel? Where is my opinion improved from maybe, you know, a few weeks ago, a month ago, or whatever, before fall camp started? I think definitely offensive line falls into that for me. You know, not to say that we know the five, because we don't, but it's more in a good way than a year ago, where it was like there was injuries, and it was just kind of like, are they going to be able to find a five that'll work? It feels like the options are very plentiful this time, and guys have just gone out. There are way more than five guys who have potentially earned a role, which is, again, there's a difference there, right? I mean, and you know, you kind of look at it. I think at one point Derek Simmons was almost a lock for right tackle, but he has the concussion. He missed some time. They move Logan Howland over. He does some really good things. Jake Taylor did some really good things. Jacob Sexton misses a little bit of time. Michael Fasusi had a really great, you know, a week or so. Eddie Pierre-Louis, I think, was a given to start for a while. He misses a little time. Keith Ozaida does some really good things. You know, I would be shocked if Troy Everett's not starting at center, but like Jake Michaela, by all accounts, is pushing him a little bit. Like the depth is far better. I don't know how quickly they're going to be able to find the five, and they have Michigan in week 2, which is what's kind of scary about that. But the depth and the options are plentiful here. I think there's a lot to feel good about. A lot of guys have had good camps. Ryan Foje's had a good camp. Like the list kind of goes on. I feel pretty good about this offensive line. Again, I don't know if like it's going to be one of the best offensive lines in the country or something that we've seen in the past, a Joe Moore Award level like Bill Bemo's had. But I don't think it's going to be a problem, which is a good feeling. And then on the flip side of it, as far as positions, I still don't really know. We just talked about one cornerback just because of health. I think there's optimism there, but I think it's still an unknown. And then tight end too. I mean, not that we had a lot of expectations for tight end, because we didn't. When we did the preview, we were honest there. But I still don't know who tight end 1 is. You know, I don't really think one has emerged. And I think some guys have done some good things. I think Will Huggins is probably your best blocking guy. I think Jaren Kennick's probably your best pass catching guy. I think Carson Kent's probably the best blend of the two. And then Caden Helms was having a nice camp before he hurt his hand, which, you know, is really hard to overcome. I think we as a general public kind of underrate fall camp injuries. You miss a week or two, that is tough to come back from. You lose all those reps, other guys emerge. And so I think that hurt Caden Helms' chances quite a bit. I don't know who tight end 1 is. If I had to guess, I'd guess either Huggins or Kent. But I mean, you could talk me into a couple other ones, you know. So those are still questions for me, tight end and cornerback. But offensive line, I feel like has I feel a little more comfortable than I did maybe even a month ago. I think they're in good shape there with Bill Bedenbaugh's group. But those are the kind of questions for me still.
Yeah, I'm there with you on the offensive line. Like, I think they're in better shape than we might have thought coming out of the spring, and certainly coming out of last season. I think they'll be much better. I'm still curious to see like how long it's going to take to get the 5. Now, I don't think that whoever trots out there for the season opener is going to be the starting 5 at the end of the season. But I also think that's not as big of a problem as it was last year, because last year they were like scraping the barrel to get 5 healthy guys that they can trust on the field. And, you know, they just couldn't do it. But I think now you have more viable options where it's not going to be an issue if you're tinkering with the lineup through the first month of the season. Now, would you still like to get it kind of situated quicker than that? Of course you would. But I think that they have a little bit more leeway just because there's more competition and more just better overall depth in that room than there was last year.
And tinkering the lineup isn't going to be a guy playing out of position this time around. Like, it's going to be a guy that's worked at that position, and just like he was just like the second guy on the in that spot. So it's like that's going to be a better situation for the overall group because you can still focus on what you've been practicing all the fall camp. So that's going to help out with the offensive line as well.
Right.
But they still do have some guys that they can move around if they feel.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
And I didn't mention Fabechi Wiwu earlier. I think we had kind of generally moved on a little bit from Fabechi a little bit. Like there were some other guard options by all accounts, having a great camp as well. Like it's a lot of guys have kind of stepped up, which is good to hear, obviously. So very interested in that depth chart there. And like Tom said, how quickly can they find the 5? Because you don't have that cushion that you had last year. You have one gimme to start with an FCS opponent, and then Michigan's coming in. And that's a huge game. We talked about it a lot. It's fascinating. Very, very interesting, to say the least. Very excited to get to
a top 10 caliber FCS team, right? What are they ranked?
Are a good FCS team.
Yeah.
which is better than like a Temple or a Kent State. Like
probably, honestly, yeah.
FBS teams. You're going to learn more against a high caliber FCS team than you will against a bottom dwelling FBS program.
They'll be fired up. They'll be coming in playing absolutely on fire, doing everything they can to try and pull something. But yeah, it'll be fun. I'm excited. We didn't have a spring game, obviously, so chance to actually see Mateer in this offense. Hey, we're gonna learn some stuff soon, which is exciting. And then like James kind of said with the running backs, I'm curious there because Ott missed the time he missed, and then X-Rob is back and all that. The depth chart there is interesting for sure. It wouldn't shock me if they throw an or with Barnes and Ott, just because Barnes has had a nice month and he's the vet there and he's been healthy. That wouldn't stun me. I'm sure the fan base will freak out if that happens, but that wouldn't stun me if that's the way it goes.
Yeah, I know the injury situation at running back has like been a concern. Like you said, when we were out there were two healthy guys.
Marco Murray's doing drills.
Yeah. But I think the most generous reading you can take out of that is long term. What if it does pay off that like early in the season you're getting Torrey Blaylock some reps and you can count on him for a handful of carries, and then you get a healthy Xavier Robinson and Taylor Tatum back fully in the mix when you're going through that, mid-October into that November stretch where you need, like a full complement of running backs. Like maybe in the long run, it does help. I'm not saying it's, absolutely going to be the case, but I think there's a generous reading to be had there. It's like, okay, we've heard Brent Venables talk about like, you're going to need to rely on more than just a Jaden Ott and Javante Barnes to get through this SEC schedule. If you have some fresh legs late in the season, like we saw last year when Xavier Robinson kind of emerged and kind of helped them through that Alabama game, it pays to have a guy that you can just kind of be like, okay, you haven't gotten 100 carries through the first 2 months of the season. Let's ride you for a little bit more to help us over the hump here.
No doubt. I think that's it. Like we said, we'll have more fall camp stuff or whatever you want to call it tomorrow. Again, 3 assistant coaches, which is great. The position coach interviews were 2 for 2, but awesome. We're getting 3 tomorrow. Emmett Jones, Jay Valai, and Todd Bates. Like Tom said earlier, especially with Emmett and Jay Valai, very intrigued and just kind of hearing them talk about their room and what guys they choose to highlight. And like that, it's going to be very, very interesting tomorrow. We're also supposed to get more players as well. And then we got a few days. Get the mind right, and then it's going to be game week. Colin will be with you. I think we're going to do Friday this week again. We'll get on Monday, Thursday, I think the rest of the season after. Colin's actually going to see Bo Bentley on Thursday night in a scrimmage, so he's going to probably catch up with Bo and stuff. So we're going to talk about that on Friday. So keep an eye out for that. And then next week will be game week. We'll be with you on Monday, the 3 of us. Our final season predictions, our final thoughts on all this. We're going to lock it all in. And then we will shift into game week. We'll have the weekly presser on Tuesday. And presumably, we haven't heard that for sure, but it's been on Tuesday in the past. And then we'll have, obviously, the recruiting show with Colin, game preview show. And then Saturday, we kick it off. Exciting. Year 3 of Sooners Illustrated, season 3 is just about upon us. So you have the rest of the week to kind of get ready. And then it's go time next week. So that's it for now. For Tom Green, James D. Jackson, I'm Josh Callaway. Reminder again, I'll put it up one more time. I always try to get it at the end. SoonersPod60, promo code, use it. That's for podcast listeners only or a special group. Get 60% off your subscription right now. Season underway next week. That's it. We'll be back on Friday with Colin. Back 3 of us next Monday. See you next time. Right back here as always on Sooners Illustrated.
See you.